5:30, so let's officially call the meeting to order.
We have agendas.
I'll grab one.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Maybe now.
We have a quorum. Mr. Lowrie is out of town. It does state on item number 5 that he will be doing that announcement. I'll just do that in lieu of Mr. Lowrie. We'll go ahead with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pam, will you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pam. I like that swiftness of getting it done. Thank you. All right. Our next item is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next, we have the adoption of the minutes. And this first one will be the minutes from 10/24/24. There was a misprint, and we've corrected that. And you should have those in your email. If not, Marty has a hard copy. All of that corrected and amended minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt the 10/24 minutes, please? 10/24.
No, 10.
If that's okay. And a motion?
Second.
Who made the first motion?
I don't think nobody moved making this, but I'll do the first one.
Okay, motion and a second from Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has carried. Now we adopt the minutes from the last meeting of 10/27/25. You've all looked over those. Can I get a motion to adopt those minutes?
Motion.
Marty, in a second.
Second.
Brian, any discussion? All in favor of adopting those minutes, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Does that make everything covered? Thank you. All right, on to new business. We will start with item number 1, the financial report. To date, Marty Callahan or Lindsey. Lindsey's not with us, so.
Do you have a report from Lindsey?
Brandon's here.
Brandon's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Brandon D. Douglas.
So some of this you already got an email a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about it. We were able to talk with Amy and Marty prior to the February 3rd council meeting. And so I thought it would be appropriate to give it to y'all via email so we can kind of talk about it. But basically the way we've kind of set aside the 2024 is there was $59,519 of contributions for the Downtown Live. Now, the way that I've tried to lay this out is from an administrative perspective, how I can understand stuff. So in terms of a financial report, this is for management from an administrative perspective, so you can kind of commit to memory in terms of the basis of what a Downtown Live you receive and what it costs. And so the happen chance was that the idea of going from 4 to 3, the original, because we're 4, the idea was that it would net the same in terms of the revenues come in and the revenues going out. Because if you look on the second page, it's the expenditures of about $57,000. So you've got $59,000 worth of contributions, you got $57,000 worth of expenses associated with just downtown. So then I kind of put a miscellaneous revenue as well as expenditures, so you could see that the additional costs associated, and Pam is on the second page, the expenses. So your Downtown Live expenses and then the associated miscellaneous expenses. So just to kind of put it within context, you've got about $20,000 to $22,000, $22,600, but I'm going to say $20,000 because a lot of times you'll remember when you leave here today you got a 20,000 carryover budget amount from 2024. So starting today, you've got 20,000. So if you don't have any contributions that came in between January 1 to now, you've got 20,000 to start. You've also got the 22,000 to start with regards to the amount that the council allocated in the 25 budget from the hotel motel monies. So the reason I'm trying to break it down into those is so you kind of have a working knowledge kind of moving forward that the additional miscellaneous expenses not associated with Downtown Live came out to about 14,700. So I wanted to, this is going to kind of play into some of the additional information we're going to talk about later on in the agenda relative to some training opportunities. Because I don't want you to look in February and get excited and then all of a sudden you look at us in August and say, whoa, what happened? So keeping all things the same, if you receive these contributions on the front page from Downtown Live, these miscellaneous revenues, because you'll see you got a donation from Emma Calola, I think Jasper gotten that. That 5,000 contribution, the expense associated with it was 5,000 for decorations, so it nets out. So you may or may not get that same revenue, but you may or may not have that same expense. So that's really the amount I wanted to kind of talk with y'all today about. Didn't know if y'all had any questions when you looked at the email. If, you know, the simplistic way that I talked to Marty and Amy was looking at the Downtown Live is about 13,700 that you need to run it each month. So your revenues, if you were trying to say, well, what does it cost based upon 2024, and I picked July as an instance, it would cost 13,700. And that's obviously if there's no upcharge from generators or other vendors that would use.
Thank you. Anything else from the city as it pertains to the financial report?
Still your
Thank you.
So I had also from Coca-Cola and maybe it's, I don't know, but that was a 250 from Coca-Cola and ETC. Should be another 250. I don't know where it's at, but I mean, that's no big deal. I mean, I got 5 people at 250
last year. What was it?
ETC.
Because it wasn't in the report.
Okay.
250?
Yes, sir. And then also you got from Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola.
Another 250?
Yes, sir.
All right. She's in the middle of audit right now, so it's a good time to kind of check to see if there was a, because what I did was I pulled her financials from Tyler software and put it into this spreadsheet, because quite candidly, if you just dump governmental Tyler in front of everybody, it's like, well, thanks a lot for the information, but how do you interpret it? How do you read it? So this was me taking the information and putting it. But,
Yeah, well, I was gonna say too, Honeysuckle Forest, there was 4 checks for 250. So it should have been a total of 1,000. I noticed that last month and I was gonna mention that.
You're on there.
Yeah, since it's on there at 250. But it should be 1,000.
gotcha. Was it all at the same time, or was it different?
Well, they were post dated a week. Well, I guess however you want to say it, a week before each event. So it's 4 checks at 250.
So I have a question.
That'll help bump it up.
I mean, when you have accounts,
Are y'all caught up? Ready for my Dr. Proctor's question?
Yeah.
Okay.
so how is our fundraising organized? Is it just people go that have asked other people, they just go back to them? Or is there any kind of drive or?
We don't have a formalized process in
Okay.
place. We've just relied on digital marketing.
Mhm.
Send out the digital marketing. Some of our, and they just do it online. Yet some of our hate to just summarize it, larger sponsors, that does usually come straight from either me or Marty.
Yeah.
Is in the form of, hi, Dr. Proctor, thank you for last year's. So it's a little more formalized with those larger dollars. Not to say we don't appreciate the 250s, but that's much easier just to run through a digital process. And usually it's verbal.
So it's worked so far.
It's worked so far, but
as we transition to a Main Street program in Perrow Park,
absolutely.
and if we want to do, despite what the rumors might be, that we want to do less events, we don't. We want to eventually get to a point where we have, we'll find ways to make more money, whether they be sponsorships or, and so we'll just have to maybe in our planning session include talking about how that works.
Let's formalize that process, have an actual packet. So if you can kind of put that in the back of your mind and put that as an agenda item for us to discuss.
And then maybe even start talking about, as we mentioned in our meeting in here, talk about next year's Downtown Live. Lo and behold, even before we have the first ones here, so that just gets it moving a little bit.
Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
We, me and Angela got together and was trying to think about new people. So we invited 2 new people to a meal and presented to them. And they were very excited about wanting to help. So that's what we did.
So are we talking about art walk, or are we talking about
Other art walk.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because we have intentionally, not by any ill will or anything, we've completely separated those two
Okay, but
from the
For
perspective.
the budget.
But if y'all want to collaborate, that's fine too.
But I just wanted you to know,
Yeah.
since you were talking about a process, it was something, and they were very excited about doing it.
That's awesome.
And I think they were, in fact, they want to do more. In fact, Coke did a bunch because of what they did with it, going to.
I think we're going to find that as if we are more organized and diligent about it early on, that there are going to be more and bigger donors.
Willing to help.
And I think they're probably even on a scale that may even exceed our
Yeah,
needs and abilities.
we've
out
got
there
some big businesses coming into
Right.
town, and
Well, Still, I mean, the guy that owns Wendy's owns.
while we appreciate all the mom and pops,
Yeah.
but if we can reach out to Publix and those Chick-fil-A's, this could really change the trajectory of some of our events. Any other discussions or input on the financial report?
I just would say, like, just very shortly, like, even with, like, I know us as a business, we're small potatoes as far as, like, giving money, because I know you get asked all the time too, but it goes a long way when someone comes in person. And so I was just waiting on us to finalize the website so that as soon as it's ready to go and, like, go and shake hands and be like, hey, would you mind, so.
Absolutely.
But we can talk about that more in the
Well, as you continue to sit on boards, you're going to find out there's usually some sort of level of fiscal responsibility associated with being on board.
Volunteerism.
When they ask you, they don't have to mention that, but in the orientation meeting, it comes up right away.
It's like when your kids have a fundraiser and they don't have enough for the wrapping paper, the mom's always by the end of the wrapper paper. Same exact thing as these boards. All right, we'll move on to Marty's update on the Downtown Live dates. And if you want to partner with Pam with the brochures and stuff,
Pam's
that's
already got
fine.
us a flyer going out to most businesses.
Yeah, if anyone needed one in here,
She's brought us some. This will be.
I just brought some
awesome.
extras.
To show the dates. I'll just give this one for our video presentation.
Oh, wait a minute, that's June 12th. That's what we voted. No, we didn't
Is it
vote.
wrong?
That's right. No.
There's,
Okay.
Just being sunny.
there's the dates. So we're
Jokes for
excited
dates.
to announce our dates with our save the date poster, but we have all the bands officially locked in, and they'll be out on the website in the next few days. We have a which is in the next section. I'll jump around to it, but March 1st is our release date for our vending applications, which will go out on our website, Jasper Downtown Live, and also the vending will be corporate sponsors that they can sign up electronically that way. So there's a few people that do it that way, then we'll make our personal contacts for those contacts. But the dates are May 10th, June 14th, July 12th, and August 9th. second Saturday of each month this summer. So we are excited about that and get ready to get everything kicking and going. And we've got our contract set up with our bands, and we're finishing up those and our contract with our stage and working out all the details. And anybody have any questions about the events? Kim, do you have anything to add?
Just that the chamber printed these for us. I guess they reached out to Coke or whoever did, and they're going to do the baller things with the art walk and downtown live on them again, which is cool. It's on the Visit Pickens website for their event calendar.
So we have, and I'm just a stick in the mud, but we're signing contracts, and I mean, we have to, in my way my mind works, we have to have some sort of process by which we empower somebody to sign those contracts. Does that make sense, or am I overthinking it? So
The band contracts, okay.
I mean, technically does
the
that
city
should be the chairman.
Does the DDA or the city have a contract that we can use as a form to go by to create a contract?
The approach we would take is at a public meeting, you all would just bring forward saying, look, we've got this agreement, and authorize the chair and vice chair to just execute. Because what it is you're encumbering some element of public monies as a public entity, and so you just have to have a tracker of saying, here's the associated cost, and here was the authorization. If there's some sort of dispute one day.
Is there any requirements of who has to be able to own the sign? Is there need to be anybody outside the board, or is it?
Usually it's just the chair. So the board would empower the chair or vice chair.
So we can empower somebody else. It's just that the bylaws give it to you.
So me and Amy both could sign it as, I could be the chair of the event, and she could be the chair of the DDA. That would be enough to, we don't have to have anybody on in the city to. Okay. We'll have that. I mean,
Marty, let's
I've
be
only-
sure we tighten that up, and we'll look into that. And if we need to report it back to the city of Jasper, we can do that.
So can we use the contracts for music and stuff that we used that they used last year?
Yeah, you just,
Okay.
We'll just formalize it
Yeah.
in a little
We just
more
need-
formal process and
we just need
document
to-
it.
I just need a form to go by.
Sure.
And just add in the
Okay.
dates and change it. We don't have to create one forever different.
And do you have that financial report too? If anybody wants to see that, that wasn't printed. Actually, I did print it, but I don't know where I put it. But the price for each band is on there.
Sure.
So Marty and I can collaborate
Once we
and
we've got that.
here it is.
Once we execute the contracts.
Sorry,
Once
that's
we-
dollar
okay.
paper. It's,
All of this is in process, so
Yeah, we're still in.
we'll formalize all of that.
Quarter through.
it's awful.
Yeah. So while this is in finalization, final steps, Marty had went ahead with item 3. March 1st was the release date for the vendor applications. Those will be live on the website beginning March 1st for the vendors to apply. All the rules are on there. If it's okay, I'll start and go on into item 4 with the recap of the public safety and public works staff that we had on last Monday, I think it was.
I have
Pardon
a
me.
question about vendor applications too.
Go ahead.
So last year at the very end of the season, we kind of, it was brought out publicly that we may be considering soliciting vendors from outside our area. And we decided no. Is that what we're doing again this year?
We are still standing true to that as of now.
Okay.
I guess we could do a cutoff date for these vendors. If we don't have enough vendors, we could look into that. But that has not been discussed with Marty, Pam. We're still trying our best to stay true to Jasper as it pertains to the vendors and the food trucks. So there was a little chatter, I think,
Yeah.
among the community. We have, as of right now, plenty enough
So
food
I think
trucks and people
I
inside
think
Jasper.
this soon, but if we can be proactive in making that public when we do it, because it
Sure.
could be kind of a big deal that people were. I think there were some people that were pretty upset about it.
We take a
When
lot
they
of,
heard that, they thought we might even be considering it.
yeah, that's completely false information.
Yeah.
We take a
Well,
lot of pride in
Yeah.
who's here. I mean, we even have Made with Love Soul Food with their truck literally in
Well,
the
I
parking lot.
think there
So-
were some people that thought that maybe competing, and my philosophy is if it'll improve the event, then that might be, and it's something we don't have, we may consider that.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily think that as a downtown live event long term that, I mean, we want to be building up our downtown, not necessarily just making money for somebody who lives in Chattanooga, but those are things that we just, I think, ought to vet amongst ourselves.
When we have the applications come in, there's a committee that decides.
Yeah.
And then they can apply, and they do. So let's make that very public. There
Yeah.
are people who do call for
Yeah.
Chattanooga and South Georgia wanting to be a part of this event. And, you know, we do decline those requests.
I think the more that we can make known to all of us, I still don't know how some stuff works.
You make a
And
note of that too for me, Marty.
it's not that I'm
Tighten
trying
that
to
up and put that
mess it
out.
up, I just don't
Absolutely.
know how it works.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we're gonna get there, I promise we will.
We'll get there, and hopefully, like I said, that'll, with some city help and some, you know, we'll get all of this information out. Again, when we have I keep skipping around, our work session, hopefully we can tighten all of these loose ends up and make this a very formal process. Have like a booklet, that's my goal. You know, something happens to Amy and Marty, somebody needs to know how to be able to pass the torch. You know, this is the process for vendors, this is the process for whatever. It's cut and dry. So that's one of my goals for our
Awesome.
meeting. Our workshop, thank you. So the rest of the meeting with the public safety, public works was Matt Dawkins, chief, had expressed some concern with children running across the street, and it was very difficult for only 2 police officers to monitor that. His formal request was to keep South Main Street open and not close it this season. That has not been officially decided. Public Works said the same thing, as a matter of difficulty getting enough staff to handle all of that with the traffic, closing the streets. Trash was mentioned, and the need for the event to have a very hard stop exactly at 10 p.m. and the street all the way open and closed by 11. So those 3 main things were top priority from a public safety standpoint. So we will be discussing those with the Downtown Live Committee and seeing how that pans out. Brian had mentioned maybe having a Survey Monkey to see what the downtown businesses prefer or want to do. He's got the questions typed up here if y'all want to look at those.
Copies. I think I emailed them to everybody, but
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we talk about that now?
We can, if you would like to discuss that.
The first
We can.
part
Which part?
about not doing South Main.
We can. What would you like to discuss? Thank you.
I fought kind of hard last year, jumped right in the middle of it to keep them included, and I think that I'd like to keep them included.
Okay.
That'd be what I would recommend.
Absolutely. That's
And
fine.
I wasn't in the meeting with Matt or with Josh, and so I can't necessarily speak to what their motivations were. I think there was some discussion in our last meeting about the pressure that these events put on them, but at the same time, I think it's ultimately, that'd be kind of Brandon's.
Yeah, so, and I apologize. I really don't want y'all to think that I'm trying to just go through the process to be difficult. I think it's important to this is my first opportunity, first of the year to kind of get going. So when Amy reached out to the chief and Josh, I specifically excluded myself because I never want to censor or give the appearance that, you cannot go in and talk with, because I'm informed. Same way with council. Council can reach out to whomever they want to. Ultimately, and this is going to sound abrasive, and it's not, they work for me. So at the end of the day, with all deference and due respect, is similarly to the way that I approached y'all last month of suggesting from 3 to 4 or from 4 to 3 predicated on all the things that y'all talked about. It was approved for 4. We're moving forward to 4. So we're moving forward status quo. So I just want it to be known that from a staff perspective, it's appropriate for your chief public safety official to express the concerns. It's expected for him to say that. I support that perspective, but I also am not changing the way that we're doing it. Because with all due respect, as the person in charge of the Deputy City, I got notified that we're doing 4 events status quo, so that's what we're doing. I think the exercise of getting the input in terms of best practices for future event is worth having and to continue to have for discussion, but there's no deviation. And I talked to the chief this morning, it's acknowledgement that yes, this is the way we operate. It's like, well, why did it's a process, because the way that I approach it is status quo was what February 3rd was about at the council meeting. So everything's the same.
Everything's the same. So
Part of it is, I don't think it's a bad idea to have continued discussions for future implementation, because I think there's value in it. But I do not want to give any misgivings that there's any sort of deviation from 2024 to this year. And I remain silent, so then that way everyone hears the same thing at the same time with the same tone, so it doesn't come across as anything more than genuine. Because I don't want there to be this, well, this pitted against staff and this and this. No, it's not. It's completely fine to do everything that we're doing and to have this dialogue. But in terms of the only thing that I will say, and this is from observing all 4 events last year, I am not an advocate for ever closing 53. And I do think it's appropriate at this point to say why, is because June and July, I was the most vocal opponent of keeping it open. Then after continuing to watch and observe and see, we do not need to close it, because the false idea is from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock, if that road is just completely open, watching for 6, 7, 8 hours, people just walking back and back and back. The barriers, at least, that the city's invested provide some level of acknowledgement at 10:15 when it is open back up. Because GDOT will say, hey, you're going to open it back up. It's not going to be for very long. It does provide that, oh, wait a minute, because we physically have watched people, oh, okay, there's a car coming. So it's 7 o'clock or it's 11 o'clock, there's a tangible barrier that they're watching. So I'm not a proponent of closing. Jeep Fest is the exception, because it's nearly an all call out from SO and JPD. And so it's not a one-time block party. It is an all call out major event that is appropriate to do the closing. So I wanted y'all to know that Chief Dawkins is the public safety, chief police. He's always going to be 100% safety first, as we all are. But part of the investment in those barricades was to allow us to block it off.
Okay, so the concern when we were having the discussion of moving from 4 events to 3 events was, the reason for that was the stress on the city, the resources, the manpower, and everything. So
it was financially viable too in terms of sustainability. Because once again, the reason I brought it up is to look at what your input is and your output relative to the fact that we didn't get into the external cost of saying, okay, well, it's $5,900 worth of public works. That's not the ODM through the police officers and then the fire department and others, which is fine. And what I was trying to do is suggest a viable way of introducing 3 signature events. So I think that in the future, if DDA wanted to say, okay, well, is that something we want to look at for 26 or 27? That's still okay to do. Because I know in terms of even from y'all, the amount that y'all put into it, I think is something that you can consider in the future.
Okay, terrific. So what I'm hearing from the city side is the resources, the manpower, all of that is available. Should we still close South Main Street, the city can help and provide those resources.
What I heard was we're closing South Main Street.
Yeah, we're closing.
No, we're gonna decide that, I hope, with a motion.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, well,
But-
my position is status quo.
And if it's status quo,
Or we're gonna,
the city has the funds and the resources available to keep it status quo.
That was part of the February 3rd understanding.
Okay,
Yes, that the moment that the application's submitted and approved is status quo.
okay,
Now, any future
That's-
discussions
okay.
for 26. or
Imperative
27,
that we have that with a board of 7. Yeah, it's imperative that we make that very clear that we have the full city support, keeping it status quo with,
Yeah, well, as a
Okay.
city manager, what I say on the day-to-day is exactly what's going to happen.
perfect.
Yes, thank you.
and I'd like to add on to what he said, with the fact that this is gonna be an exciting year for South Main Street, in addition to the downtown lives, and that we're gonna be moving dirt at Perrow Park. And I know that's an update further down the road.
Do it.
And so I think it's important that we include as much of that south side as we can as we start building momentum. There are some people who still are not convinced that we are going to be doing Perrow Park or that we should be doing Perrow Park. And I can tell you that we are, well,
It's on the agenda to come up
God is
to
willing.
discuss that.
God is willing. And, if he stays that way, then we're going to do it.
We're gonna go.
And I also want to make mention of understanding that is one of Brian's busiest, his most busy day of the year. And 2 years ago, we had some issues on South Main, and
Yeah, that's all been
we're
addressed.
not gonna let that happen.
So are we closing it or leaving it open?
We're going to leave as status quo per the city manager.
Just like it was last
Keep
year.
it all as is per the city manager.
But we're not
So-
closing 53.
But we're not closing 53.
Everything so far remains the same.
Okay.
So
And
no
I'm
need for a
asking just
vote, no need for a,
clarification.
I
So
think.
the safety issue that Chief Dawkins put forth was having the kids running back and forth across the street, and that the two officers, it's hard for them. So are the inflatables and things going to stay on South Main or not?
It was my impression from February 3rd, and pardon me, I work for the city council. So city council approved the 4 events, and by virtue of the 4 events was the application set forth by DDA to them for consideration. So I'm taking the liberty to say that the application as submitted by DDA to the mayor and board was for the 4 events as reflected on that, with the same level of everything 2024. Inflatables, barricades, set up 12 to 11. So everything the same as 2024 is the same for 2025.
So Matt would be okay with leaving the inflatables on South Main.
Since his boss is standing here, that will be a yes.
His boss and his boss.
All the
That's-
bosses
I just
will.
want to make sure, because I get this.
And I don't call him, I don't
Yes.
say that to him very
But that's, and I know it's tricky sometimes because, and hear me out, this is not contentious adversarial. The reason why I did not interject is because I do want there to be the open line of whomever, whether it's the elected, the volunteer board, whomever, to have access to the department leaders. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, I communicate to them, they communicate to me, and then I will say, you have now had the opportunity to express to anyone. My expression is February 3rd, the approval was such, 24, 25, that's it.
So
So I don't feel as
I
though it's going to
appreciate that.
don't feel as though it's going to cause any sort of consternation. Oh, well, chief's going to be this or this. That is not the way that I operate. I operate fully to allow expression of any and all. So you all do know that, hey, this is something that, hey, in the future, we probably do want to look at or think about or strategize. Do we want to keep this? Do we want to do this? Because until such time as that discussed, we're just staying status quo.
And all of that is brand new information to me. There were previous managers in the past who requested that the DDA chairs not go directly to. So I kind of want to make the board aware. That's why this is.
She ain't here no more.
I'm trying to be as noble as I possibly can to say, Matt was off limits to me in as far as those types of discussions. It had to go through the
Amen.
manager's office first, then
Amen.
there. So
And I will tell you,
I'm getting used
in most
to the way
jurisdictions,
of it.
most city managers have a very consistent style that is the norm. Council, volunteers, etc. That is the norm. I have a unique way that I operate, and it seems to be successful because 20 years, you build community that way.
Okay.
You don't build community that relying on just me. It takes all parties, and I cannot censor the information. Now, what I will do is I will be very transparent in saying no. Until such time as there's something else, no, we're status quo.
Okay, all right.
So Pam, if that puts you in a little bit of an odd position because you went and communicated with those folks.
I was just gonna say one thing.
Okay.
So in that meeting though, like I don't know what the status quo was last year as far as like staffing with police, but I know Matt did say something like it might be helpful to have like a policeman on each corner. So I don't know if we need to do that through the ODM or if that was the status quo last year. I have no idea.
And which is why, so part of the importance of this is you'll see on there the actual ODM in terms of expense associated. And during the February 3rd discussion prior to the council vote, there was talks of, okay, well, would we want to do something similar with some of our public works crew of saying, hey, let's put them on a 1099 status to relieve any sort of financial burden to the general fund, because that's not something that is, it's just overtime that hits the budget. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is right now, if you have the same level of funding from 24 to 25 and the same expenses, that's not an option. So that's just not a budget. So
But I know there are certain things that we are cutting from the budget. So like I think we can cut other things and
Matt can make those recommendations of how he knows who would have time, who doesn't have the time, and
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Chief Dawkins on 2 occasions, October and January, has had to fill a slot, and so part of the reasoning was not an empty gesture by me saying from 4 to 3. It was predicated because of watching the last 6 months since I had been here. It is difficult sometimes, even if you are paying an off-duty officer, sometimes their time is worth more to them than any sort of side job. So part of what we do is we fill in the gaps by saying, hey, there's nobody who's taking ODM. What's going to happen? Well, command staff's going to pick up. And the command staff is the captain, a major, and a chief. And that's just I was out there from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, all 4 events last year, to provide credence that, hey, this is what you got to do. So I respect it and I appreciate it, because if the budget allows, I'd love for us to look at opportunities to then say, hey, this is how we can, provide less stress.
And can we not reach out to the sheriff's office? I mean, is there anything that says that a Pickens County sheriff's officer could not be on one of the corners?
it would still fall under the off-duty management request.
Well, I
so
know,
the
but
money
I'm
would
saying,
still be the same.
As far as manpower is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
With their time, could we reach out to the sheriff's office?
I do not have an issue with that.
Because you've got this small pool with the officers and then the sheriff's office.
Just hard.
Yeah,
You heard what he said. He doesn't have an issue with it.
And I'll tell you why. It's because from a traditional, jurisdictional thing, we are not large enough to get into those jurisdictional things. Sheriff Craig and I've talked, and whether there's a different level of disagreement, at least from the agreement of saying, we had 2 officers call out that were supposed to be on duty today. Well, we got 3 officers on duty, 2 call out, you've got 1 officer. So then you got to find coverage for those 2, and then 1's on FMLA. So those are the realities of a small department. And so that's why when you get into a July and August, you've had this type of inclement weather or covering this or doing this and this shifts and this shifts. It's difficult at times to look and say, well, just pick up that extra job. It's been the totality of those. Well, I've covered this shift for this one and this one's been sick. So I don't, Brian, have an issue with saying, hey, if there's not a pickup on the ODM, but there's an SO that wants to do it.
That was one recommendation Matt had, was Chief Dawkins had, to go ahead and open that ODM up once we have it official, so those officers can go ahead and plan months in advance to have that Saturday. Because sometimes, like you said, they don't want to work at all, and then sometimes they really want that overtime. So if they can go ahead and pre-plan for that and have it on their calendar, because we were in the past just doing it like 3 or 4 weeks before each event. So we did recommend that we just go ahead and open all of them up so the officers can sign up for whenever they want to.
Just a thought, sorry.
Sure.
Does it have to be police on the corner, or can it be like Marty in a vest telling kids when not to cross?
Have you seen Marty at Deep Downtown Line?
I'm joking.
So Pam,
People like Marty.
so Pam, in terms of,
Without a shirt on and a vest on?
I was in a vest and I made a verbal command at one of the events last year that was completely ignored.
No.
So you can, anyone, I'm never going to discourage anyone from, being responsible and, hey, looking after, but the success of it is not the same without someone with official.
Trying to be frugal here.
We've had good success with and good cooperation and partnerships with both the fire department, the public works, all the lights and shiny bells and whistles. When you bring that fire truck up and that rescue truck, and some of the fire staff is in their uniforms, that does help. Now, whether that's a powerful authority to, arrest the mom for letting their kid, whatever, but it does help, and we appreciate that partnership as well, that they'll bring the fire truck and the fire chief or whomever will usually be in uniform.
And, and we're trying to be more proactive in getting this stuff talked about. I know a few years ago you kind of got an invoice sprung on you that was not, and I'm just telling you, I was not happy about that at all, and not. It just reminded me of things going by, and
Thank you for that.
So just a quick, $8,886 is what we paid Rob Denny last year for the 4 events. Is what I racked up to be. Did we have an amount or a number of people that were acquired by based on population?
Matt
How
said
does that work?
three people.
Is it just determined by what he thinks we need, or do we? If we get bigger, do we need 6, 10?
Oh, well, when you're going to get bigger, yes, you're going to need.
So it just needs to be determined, like in the planning session before the first event.
Yeah, I think this year we'll have
But
a
we
good.
can put it on the calendar.
Sure.
Yeah, once you start looking at, because this is the 4th year, so you'll begin having historical data saying, okay, with the placer data, we've had this on this event, this, and draw this kind of.
So we'll have an idea how much, like this, that was for 3 people every day last year. Costs were different somehow for each one, but that's fine. I just didn't know how there was a formula to figure, because if we want to put those dates out, we got to know pretty soon what those, if you want to have 4 or 5.
And Matt has
or
given
2.
me that formula and how many officers between, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And so I just go in and
That's fine.
fill that out per his request.
And then back to the original question about the contract with the inflatables, we're talking about contracts. We don't have it in place yet, so we don't know if we're going to have the inflatables yet because we're still negotiating.
We're still in negotiating about that, yes. And once we get our contracts lined up and typed up, we'll make sure that
But we've not confirmed.
we haven't confirmed.
Inflatable yet.
Mhm,
We're in negotiation, but it's not been
Yeah.
signed. Complete.
Okay.
Are we all good?
Recap of meeting with the public safety and public works staff. Good? Thank you. Okay.
Good.
Anything else as it pertains to that before we move on? I think we got a lot of work to do, sounds like still, so we'll get that done. Item number 5, Mr. Lowrie's out of town, so I'll pick up on that. The announcement of the DDA Workshop to be held on March 27th through the 28th for the purpose of setting goals and initiatives. We have called Jennifer. I apologize, I did not write down her last name. She is with the Carl Vincent Institution from the University of Georgia. This is what she does for communities, comes in and leads workshops, sets goals, agendas. So the first day on Thursday would be from 2 to 5. She will come in prior to that and do a walking tour of our downtown, look at,
So it's not Ebony? I thought it was Ebony.
I think I have my names wrong. It
I
is
think it's-
Ebony.
Yeah, that's okay.
Jennifer's with the other one.
Yeah, she's with the.
Let's go backwards. Yes, my apologies. Thank
No
you for
problem.
that. Ebony, yes, not Jennifer, Ebony.
Ebony Simpson.
Ebony Simpson, thank you. And Ebony is the one that works in close proximity with Elizabeth Elliott, who is guiding us with our Main Street America. So those two individuals, I have a feeling that our planning session will cover a little bit of those things. As far as Main Street and our planning session. What we did last year at our planning session was we set 1-year goals and 5-year goals. So most of our 1-year goals have actually were completed, and I can provide a list of those if we need. Then our Friday session.
I have confirmed with Elizabeth that this will meet our criteria for our Main Street, so
Okay.
I don't remember if you were included on all that or not. I thought you were.
I think so. So we
Which is
weren't sure
one of
if
the
it did.
requirements.
She won't have to come back for Main Street training. Okay.
Right.
So the next day, the Friday, the 9 to 3, we will actually sit down and work on our goals. Who wants to be on Downtown Live committees? Who wants to be on the Main Street board? Those types of things. That will be a quorumed meeting. So that will be something the public is invited to if you want to come. They're quite lengthy and boring, but those are open meetings as
Amy,
well.
where's this gonna be?
We haven't established that yet. We had it at the library last year, and that worked very well.
Okay, well, one time we had, they came over here and we had, when Main Street came, it was on the corner up here on the vocational technical school.
Oh yeah,
When
we
they
did it
brought
at
the-
the tech school.
Oh, we've done it there. We
Yeah.
did we
Yeah.
did one at the not a church
Yeah.
and
Brought that grant money.
where library's good.
Library's good.
I
Well,
just wondered where you're
Chat
thinking
tech's
about.
good.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
will be a work session or not?
it will be a work session. It'll have to be since we'll have. So what I would
Right.
also like to present to the board today is that, help me with my dates to Miss Lori, that will be the 27th and 28th. We are supposed to have a regular board meeting on the 24th.
Just replace that.
Continue with the 24th or let the 27th and 28th replace our,
I would like to have one just because I'm sure other stuff will come up and, be able to focus more on future initiatives on the 27th and 28th. Take care of immediate stuff on the 24th or whatever.
and we can discuss that. There may not be a need for the 24th. It may sort of just be redundant to meet 3 times, but we can keep that dialogue open between the board if we want to continue with the 24th, but keep that in the back of your minds. So that was the announcement of our DDA workshop. We'll move on if there's no other discussion with that. Some general updates as it pertains to specifically that he's playing golf, DDA training, Perrow Park, and our community engagement position.
So who wants immediate training like now? Are you?
What's the offer on the table?
Both. All right. So what we'll do tomorrow is whomever wants the $50 101, we can go ahead and set it up. It's that go at your own pace online 30 day that you have. We can go ahead and set you up, Ryan and Pam, for that. Also, what I think we had discussed was this would be the meeting where y'all would consider, if y'all want to spend the money, the $36.75 or round up to $4,000 for incidentals relative to lunch and or other refreshments, to have a training with the Carl Vinson. So Jennifer Nelson would come and provide an all-day training for up to 15 folks. There's 7 of y'all. I know there's at least one on council who's interested in attending. There's associated staff members. So we would get close to 15 persons to do that. And if it does go over 15, it's a couple $100, but we'll deal with that if I'll step out if there's somebody who wants my spot. But nonetheless, if y'all want to do that, the reason I said you have a surplus right now around 22.6 is you have one event coming up in May. So I always use the case of what happens if you don't get the amount of events or the amount of money that you got last year. You've got the 22,000 plus the 22,000, that's 44,000. So I do think it's okay to spend up to 4,000 for training, to be held sometime May, June, give some time for us to get a new team member on board.
I want to, for the sake of film and minutes, that I did all of that incorrectly. That is not Jennifer with Carl Vincent about our workshop. That was Jennifer with Carl Vincent for the DDA training. It is Ebony Simpson. I had this completely.
Ebony's with DCA, but
One was with the Department of Community Affairs. Yeah. Okay, let me make sure that's.
Who's going to champion planning of that? For the city or us?
if y'all authorize it, then it'll simply be an email to say,
It's
Here-
been an email for me.
here's some dates. Because the only thing I was going to do is, if it's something that y'all wanted to pursue, I would need some action, so it doesn't look like on the spreadsheet I've just spent 4,000 of DDA money. You would have a vote to authorize the expenditures up to 4,000 to go towards the Carl Vinson Institute DDA training, and then after the vote, then I would just ask for what dates you all would have.
How many people did you say again? That was
It goes up to 15.
So we're looking at the potential to have Jennifer with the Carl Vinson Institute from the University of Georgia come to Jasper to host a DDA training event, kind of like what we went to when we had to wear the mask and all of that. That would include all of us in the board, some members of city, whoever we decide, maybe some public participants, some business owners, whatever. Up to 15 people will be included in this $3,600 fee. I would entertain a motion to allow City of Jasper to go ahead and implement this using the $3,600 from the
Up to
DDA
4.
funds. Up to 4.
Before we do that, and I'm just being frugal again, is there, if there was an online, does the online option that, the immediate thing, is that, comparable to that? Is there a cheaper online version of this?
So the DDA 101 will satisfy any of the requirements.
Okay.
So yes, it would require it. This is above and beyond. It is a nearly all day. It is an opportunity for the board to
That one wouldn't take care of
get-
the individual one.
Pardon?
That class doesn't certify them instead of.
It would.
It would.
They could do that instead of their.
But I
Well,
think
part of this is for the coalesce of all
Yeah.
board members. That's really what it boils down to. Is
I think you're
You got
saying we have to do. Does she need to do both? Can she? Do
No, I'll take as much training as I can. I'm just cheap. That's
No.
what's happening right now.
I think it affords team building experience, live interaction with discussion amongst ourselves. The online course is excellent. I mean, I'm a big proponent of it. And it also allows you to go back and have reference materials, so I can still go back to my module when I took it. And I've done all of them. I've actually, Jennifer did GMA in Savannah, so it's
Worth it.
It's
Is what
worth
you're
it.
saying.
I would like to see both of you go ahead with the online and go ahead with that since the city's taking care of that. And I would like for us to see if we could get a motion to do this. I would like to see you guys do both.
And Pam, just to further understanding because as the fiduciary for the city, in terms of making sure that you're good stewards of monies, a lot of this came about too is if there's opportunities like in Savannah or Athens or otherwise, that does require then travel, per diem, the conference registration. So the $50 is always there for the online is there almost kind of as a shot in the arm, get started, get going. A deeper dive would then be you'd want to go to some of the training. So rather than 7 different board members having to incur the cost or the budget incurring the cost of that, which in effect would equal up to probably about $3,500. Because when you take in the travel, if there's hotel, if there's per diem, if there's registration, you're looking at $500 or $600 per person for that juried conference.
there is more. There is higher level DDA training than either one of these. Jay and I went last year.
I think it'd be very beneficial because I know we've done it. And I think you'd love it after you went.
Yeah, well, it's an investment.
Sure.
I mean, into what we're doing.
Sure.
So
Let's do it. Motion.
So do both. Okay. Do you want to put a motion for the city of Jasper to approve the DDA funds for up to $4,000 for the DDA training with Jennifer with the Carl Vinson Institute?
What you said, motion. I have
Pam
no
has a motion and Sunny seconded. Do we have any discussion on this? All in favor of what we just said? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for that, Brandon.
Thank you.
Being
And
willing to host that and do that. Wonderful.
Now dates.
What was proposed already?
Oh,
In
What was
terms
on
of,
her email?
to Jennifer dates.
she just said, we had said spring, summer.
I'll champion that and get the dates. Do you want to confirm those dates right this minute?
So she's fine with whatever. We just have to give her dates
Okay.
because they've got a big enough team to where if we were to say that these 3 dates, Monday, this or this, I just wanted to go ahead while I had y'all.
Sure.
And then we can confirm with Parish. This may be the best opportunity to say, hey, go ahead and get on the books for June the 18th or something.
I cannot do the last 2 weeks of May. Don't make plans contingent on my plans. But that's all. But
Do you guys want to look into June? The second week in June? 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th? Or do we want to go up on into May? Okay, let's look at June 8th and 9th, or June 9th and 10th. That'd be a Monday and a Tuesday, or 10th and 11th.
Monday, I think.
Mondays and Tuesdays are excellent for me.
It's just one day event.
It's just one.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's just one day.
Yeah,
So
just one day.
one Monday, June the 9th,
It's a full
as
day.
a.
Right.
Do we want to just keep that in the back of our heads and I'll send the email to her proposing June the 9th?
Is that good with everybody?
I'm good with it.
oh, it's far enough out.
Far enough out we can make it happen. So
If Parish is good with it,
Okay.
then on at least from the city's perspective, we've got one team member that's out, but beyond that, we should be good.
sure. Great. I'll champion the sending of that email and follow that up.
Right.
If somebody will remind me.
Will we get an email for that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Which is something we'll talk out offline in terms of Pam and Brian. We don't have access to, I guess, set up for the email addresses. So we'd have to either in the immediate get whatever email you wanted to send to.
Okay.
But we can do
I'll
that
work
after.
diligently on that. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say
I'm like,
website
I'm
emails.
trying to
But
really.
yeah, what we'll do
on
is
that.
we'll use the credit card, sign you up, put your information in, and you'll get an email.
Perfect.
Great. Can we get an update now on Perrow Park?
Absolutely. So as Dr. Proctor had alluded to, we are still moving forward. If there had ever been any sort of concerns relative to the initial suspension of some monies at the federal level, that was confirmed that this would not affect, even if it were to be in place. This is a go project. There's money still encumbered from the city's budget already, so typically monies are usually the hang up. So this time there's no budgetary issues. So the grant money plus the SPLOST monies are both good to go. The engineer's working on getting the engineer drawings to about 60%, which is kind of where you want to be at. We've kind of backed in and said we want a groundbreaking in August. So what that would mean is you have a situation where
We're all diligently writing the word August.
and you can, because that's what I've said.
That's some challenges in August.
And I also said a lot of stuff. But the idea is they are working with GDOT because obviously the 53 project would have an impact, nothing substantial, but the coordinated efforts is what's the hang up right now. It's just saying, hey, what do you need from us as the engineering firm, GMC, doing the design at this corner, and it's just a matter of coordinating those efforts. So,
And I do have a question. Was there a specific timeline that it needed to ground be broken or to start with in order to honor those funds?
my birthday's in August, so that's why I said August. So,
Great.
So,
I was
as long
under
as
the
it-
impression there was a certain amount of
That's
time
right.
that you had
The
to.
check's in there on the mail, on the wall.
yeah.
So.
We've continued to move at the pace in which the grant has.
Okay.
So we're not in jeopardy.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anything else is Perrow Park? And eventually that was the goal of the Perrow Park when it was even mentioned in its infant stages, was to have these downtown live events, this kind of thing, not to interrupt Main Street business, day-to-day business. So we are very, very excited to see that continue to happen, or going to happen in August with some dirt moving. We'll hold you to it.
I mean,
We'll go out there with
there will be some dirt
Sure,
moved, trust me.
somebody.
We already mentioned that.
It might be Josh and
In
I.
August,
Yeah, you can put it on camera. There's going to be some.
Wings and beers.
somebody's moving some
There's going to be
dirt
some shovels
in August.
in the ground in August.
Wings and
So-
beers.
As excited as we are about Perrow Park, the second most exciting thing
Was
is
me.
your next up to issue,
Okay.
the community engagement position.
Oh, okay.
Well,
A little bit of a letdown. So I guess
You-
I'm not celebrated as much, but that's fine.
he is a less us, I promise y'all.
We have received 19 applications.
Where's it publicized at right now?
I finally found it on Jasper.
GLGA, Jasper, DCA, DDA, I don't know.
Okay,
Indeed,
okay.
LinkedIn.
Indeed, LinkedIn.
So there's only been 3 applications. So the way that we process that is wanting to get some more applications up to par, because the community engagement manager was a title that was uniquely landed on to provide a good illustration of what the job would encounter. That in and of itself does not bode well for a typical government type title.
Okay.
So you have a lot of applications that are coming from the private sector, which is not a bad thing. It's just we've got to get the application on board, look at some qualifications and skill sets to see how you interact with volunteer boards, other governmental entities, internal workings of some basic knowledges associated with events and/or downtowns, and the unique of, hey, this is what you need to do, because ideally the person would be kind of that more accessible person to the chamber, to the merchants, to DDA, to whomever, because in all candor, this is me as a city manager saying, I don't always have the time
Of course.
to do this, and that's the frustration, is I have to pick and choose when I engage just because I've got this going on. So that's why this person is important. Is it's going to be unique to Jasper. Hadn't had it before, and so we want to get the right fit. But 3 right now viable in terms of at least submitted applications. Our goal is to solicit the other 16 to see if they'll submit an application. And at that point, we can kind of look and say, okay, we're going to start having interviews. Because if y'all think you're excited,
Right. Is there any discussion as far as putting it out on social media? Are you apprehensive about that a little bit to put that out there? I mean, I think something similar with the tourism was posted out there by the chamber, and that got raving reviews. So you may get more than you even wanted, but just
yeah, right now, if I get 16 other applications, then that's probably 3 times as many, quite honestly, that I would have thought. So I don't mind going around.
And you may have 4 candidates that are actually
out of
viable out of 16.
So, I mean, I'm kind of at the point where I feel as though if those applications come in and our city clerk / HR director's been working to get the applications, then I can start scheduling some preliminaries, because what I'd like to do is then have a committee of a couple from DDA. And that's why I'm going back to the January meeting talking about officers, is it comes down to where there's 3 officers. There's at least 1 or 2 that wants to sit on a, interview. Because the way that I operate is I would have the HR director kind of leading the interview with questions that are appropriate for government. Because believe it or not, you can't ask certain things and you'll get in trouble. So 20 years in government, I listen to HR. So, but that way you'd at least be able to say, I don't know. So exciting.
How many years
Wonderful,
HR,
thank you.
Lori?
26 plus.
Poor Lori.
Well,
Thanks for that.
if I may, a little bit,
Yes.
because a lot of times when we get, like it's on LinkedIn, we get a lot of resumes, but what people don't understand on social media, people set up their profile to throw their application at everything. It may or may not be of interest, so you get thrown a lot of application, or a lot of resumes. The purpose of an application and a resume, the application people sign saying it's true and correct. A resume is just a piece of paper. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, it's good supplemental information, but the application is the key part of that. So every resume that we get on LinkedIn, I'm sending them an email, thanking them for their interest. By the way, here's our application. We need to be able to process, and giving a copy of the job description for their full review. Even though it's on our website, we're just trying to add it a little bit smoother. So far, out of the ones I've got, it is 3 that so far that has completed both items. But 3 is there's a lot of questions and stuff that go into play that we are restricted and guided on what we can ask and what we don't ask. Some of them's common sense, don't ask about religious, don't ask about, anything that can be any type of restriction that's under Title VII, you have to be very careful of. So we just always guide those questions to the job duties.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's great. Brandon's covering himself.
Yeah, he's like,
himself. Like we're following everything to the T. Following all the things.
Put my
We
camera
just want to be
on.
very careful and make sure we.
I know Jack will need to step out.
Most of them understand.
Absolutely.
You'll see if they play off.
Anything else from the manager's office that you would like to add?
I'm good.
Thank you for all of those updates, and thank you for continuing to push that position forward. We're
Can I
very
ask
excited
a
about that.
question? I know he's gonna kill me.
Oh.
Lori.
Lights.
Yeah, Lori. I heard from her
Oh,
Friday.
did you? Oh, you contacted her.
After the
Okay,
last
okay.
the last meeting we had, I reached out to Universal, Lori. I don't know if it was spam or whatever, but I reiterated it again last week,
Okay.
and she did respond, and I've got to set up a call.
Okay.
Part of the issue, as I've understood it, is that there'd been an unwillingness almost to enter some sort of agreement or something. Because an email that I saw from her to the city before I started last year was that they use the invoicing and or estimate as their means of working through. And I can show you the email, and that's why I wanted to just express, say, look, I'd rather in some sort of maintenance agreement or something.
That's what it was the first time when we started.
If not, what I was going to do is provide options for March in terms of saying, hey, we just need to go to this other vendor. I reached out to a former colleague in another city, and because we had used them, if you recall, way back in the day,
Okay.
and they went to another vendor.
Okay.
That so see,
We definitely
Sure, try
want,
it.
Well,
we'll get us an agenda for our next month, and we definitely want to put what our Christmas looks like. Brian is chomping at the bit to help with that, so we'd like to add that as one of our agenda
Mountain
items.
Christmas.
He's ready.
and the issue is you can continue to utilize whomever. The idea was to set expectations relative to what agreements and or to control cost. Because part of what you encounter is, I think we had a significant bill that we had to pay from them doing something last year or something. So that's why I just want to say, hey, I don't mind entering a maintenance agreement of X amount, but they may not have the staffing.
So hopefully by next month, then there will be some kind of agreement with these.
Now that I've heard back and said, let's connect, because there wasn't a response via email, it was just let's connect, which means a telephone call, which means it's probably going to be a redirection of we don't have that, which is then going to say, okay. And then what I want to be able to do is provide y'all with additional vendors to say, hey, this is another vendor that would be able to do X, Y, and Z and the associated cost.
Okay.
Well, can I ask real quick too on the lights? I know Josh was going to look into it, but does the city utilize a specific electrician?
I think we've called out, because I know where the pole was out in front of Main Street Fitness. We had someone come out and do something.
Oh yes, thank
Get
God.
that.
I
I
got so many
forgot.
calls on that.
I don't know who they use, but we have to reach out to someone.
Well, my thought is, I mean, it's Christmas lights, so there's a plug or a timer or something like that that's causing the issue for them not to burn. So it has to be as simple as having an electrician go up to check the plug. I don't think we have to enter into a year-long, multi-$1,000 agreement with a company for maintenance to get a plug checked by an electrician. So if we have an electrician that we can use,
Just
then
go
we
check
need to
on
have an electrician get up with Josh and whoever owns the building, work it out with the building owner, get them up there to look at it. Very simple. Yeah, to me, that's
I hear you, and I don't disagree, but even the Main Street lights continuing to be on should be as simple as not being on during the day, and yet I can tell you firsthand, there has been nothing that I've encountered that would. So
The one that got knocked down by the wreck, was that one been big? That hadn't been good.
it's not.
No, well, the
Is that
hurricane
case still
hit.
been?
Right, hurricane hit.
No, someone actually hit it with their vehicle.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Has the insurance paid for that? I guess.
The people hit the
That's
vehicle,
it.
but Georgia Power's going to work on it. They found a pole. It's my understanding they did find a pole that would match what we have, but then the hurricane hit in
Oh, yeah,
September,
yeah,
so all their manpower went to
Yeah, that's right.
storm relief.
And I did, and to that point, last week or week before, I was able to get our Georgia Power rep. They're about 60 to 80 days out from doing some work at the city park that we had kind of set in motion last fall as well. So they are still continuing to run behind. So
Wonderful. We have a lot of things, sounds like we can do on our workshop. A lot of agenda items. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Anything else from our board as it pertains to our board?
Can y'all put one of these here, or is that
Who does
against rules or something?
I'd love to.
That's what they'll do. We need a motion for adjournment.
So
My
we said we good?
apologies. Yeah.
It said no.
Motion from Marty to adjourn, second
Jack.
from Jack. Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Adjourned at 6:45.
It's a record.